Hey guys, what is going on? If you were watching on YouTube, you'll see we have a new setup. Super pumped about it. And if you are not watching on YouTube and you're just listening to us, this is your sign to stop what you're doing. Go to YouTube, search We're Just Talking Podcast, and watch our weird expressions and hand motions because we'll feel more connected. So, hope you enjoy this episode. Ready, set, go. What is going on, friends? Welcome to episode 3 of the We're Just Talking podcast. This is going to be a new series. It's going to be 3 parts, all about
finances.
But we're so excited to get started on this. We're just going to be asking each other questions about our dating life. That's going to be the first episode of the series. Yeah, dating life. Like, what should we be talking about? When should we be talking about finances? Should we be sharing our salaries? Like, should we be who's paying for dates? All the good tea. So, yeah, we're just going to start having a conversation, and we hope you guys get a lot from it. But do you want to tell them that we're, like, not financial advisors?
Yeah, we're not financial advisors. So there's like a disclaimer, I guess, there.
But I would say that we do handle our money well. And we've been together for what, four years?
Yeah, almost 4 years.
Almost now. 4 years now. And so we have handled a lot of like financial discussions together. And Christopher is what I would call a expert in the area of money, a big saver. So we just want to like encourage you with just our experience in it and what we're learning every day. So yeah. So we're going to start off on the first question. How open should you be with the person you're dating about your own finances? Like, how are we? Just shoot it.
I think it's kind of like, I think it depends. I don't think there's one size fits all type of way. I think that's kind of with anything, but especially with finances. I think some people are like really, really open naturally, and some people are really, really closed off about money. I tend to be someone that's more open, and so I don't think it took very long for us to be able to share how much we made with each other.
No, it's very quick.
It's like a month or 2 months.
I mean, our whole relationship was quick, but still,
Yeah, I just, for those that don't know, I bought her an engagement ring after 3 months of dating long distance. So like, yeah, we literally
put a ring on it.
We literally met 3 months of long distance, and then I moved back to Sarasota where she was, and then bought a ring. Yeah. So everything was pretty quick with us. But I think a general rule of thumb for when it comes to speaking about finances, especially in like dating life, I think just to be honest with each other. I don't think anything ever came that was good out of trying to impress someone so much to where you were like digging yourself in a financial hole, whether it was taking you out to, let's say, fancy dates that I couldn't afford, or trying to impress you with like cars or clothes, or just kind of racking up.
Cars?
Yeah, well, like, listen, Old Red is a classic. My car is really old and it's super ratchet.
I thought you meant like you're buying me a car.
No. We'll get to that though. Anyways, yeah, like, I don't think that you should. I think a good rule of thumb is to not try to be honest and to not try to go over and beyond what you're financially capable of. And I think that just by doing that, you kind of automatically get a feel for how much money the other person has. And even like how good they are with their money. So you could either, if they weren't open and honest with you, you could even think that you could make one or two assumptions, like either based on what they're spending, they either have a lot of money and they're just spending the money that they have because they make a lot of money, or that they're spending money that they don't have because they're taking you out to fancy restaurants, or they're buying stuff that they can't afford to try to like impress you. I think that, I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I was going to say maybe, I don't know. I feel like you were pretty honest about like when we could go places and when we could not. It's not like we went to Fleming's, like a high-end steakhouse, like every week. We went once or twice for like special occasions, but then we kept it cheap other times. And I felt like that was good because it showed me that you were careful with your money, because you did have a very large amount of savings. Large amount compared to really anyone else around our ages when you moved back to Sarasota. And you could have just blown it all like within the first month or two on food and clothes and stuff, but you didn't.
Would have been a lot of food.
I mean, we did eat a lot of food, but
You did eat a lot of food.
I felt like we ate cheaper food.
Yeah.
And so I feel like you did it well, but there's also the aspect of like you paid for almost all of our dates. Yeah.
I paid for everything.
That was your choice, though. I'd like to put that out there for the most part.
Yeah, I think that it was my choice, but I also think that like it wasn't, I didn't think of it as a choice. I felt like it was a responsibility.
Oh, that's nice.
Right?
Well, no, because a lot of people, like, they split the bill. You hear about splitting bills. Like, sometimes I listen to talks and they're like, oh, we split the bill, or whoever invites pays. And I was like, I wouldn't have been able to invite you anywhere.
We would have been eating like McDonald's or chicken nuggets or something.
Frozen chicken nuggets.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Well, I mean, like I had a job and stuff, but I wasn't very good with my money. I didn't really have savings like you did. So I couldn't really afford to be like paying for things as often as you. So
Since you brought it up, I think it's kind of a different topic, but since it's kind of still in the realm of finances, I think that we did stuff that was very traditional in the sense of I kind of took on a lot of the financial responsibility, but that's also how I wanted it to be. Like I saved up all that money, so literally specifically for the moment where you could pick out whatever ring that you wanted, or saved up the money specifically for those type of things, like taking you on a nice date. Like I was actually prepared for that. So even if the stuff that we bought every now and then might have been expensive, or the ring might have been expensive, that was something that I literally specifically set aside money to do and didn't have to borrow literally any money to do that. So I think that in and of itself shows a certain amount of financial responsibility to be able to withhold different things for a certain period of time so that you can achieve kind of what you want in the long term.
But like, what if you met a girl, but you had no money? You didn't have that money saved up yet, and you started dating her. Like, what do you do?
I'm going to be, well, that kind of comes into more of like, you have a couple different options. Either you can borrow money from people and take out debt, which I don't ever think is a good idea. Yeah. Or you can make more money and apply yourself in different areas. And those are really like the only two choices that you have. You can borrow money or you can make more money. And
or you can just not date the girl.
Or you can just not date each other. And that also comes into like play where you're right. Like if you don't financially agree on anything, that's going to be a huge point of contention in your dating life, in your engagement life, in your marriage, and throughout your life.
I mean, it's the number one reason for
divorce. Yeah. We don't say that word. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's the number one reason. So it's really important to talk about it. Like, I feel like early on in the dating years, just like we did, like early on, because what's the point of not talking about it? Because if you just push it off, it could get messy really fast. If one of you is not good with finances, or you guys disagree, et cetera, et cetera.
I think you just answered the second question of,
oh shoot,
when do you start talking about it? Really early on,
well, I feel like we wrapped it into how open should you be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I personally think like you just lay it out on the table. I do not like when people try to hide how much they make or what they do for a living or how much their house costs. I think it's pretty silly. I think I learned that from you, to be honest, though. Like, just be open about it. Like, what's the big deal? Like, everybody makes money, right? So if you're dating a person, then you obviously like them and you trust them. And so what's wrong with being like, hey, I just want to like put it on the table. Like, this is how much I make. And like, I'm a big saver or I'm a big spender. What is your money habit? Because you're either a spender or a saver. And I feel like usually a spender and a saver unite in battle together
yes, it's
through the
see who
relationship.
wins.
No, but I think that we
There's a
balance
lot
each
of
other out
compromise.
because I was the spender and you are the saver, but like you've taught me a lot about like how we should be saving and how much more beneficial it is. So yeah, I personally think just lay it out on the table, right? Like,
And I think that by, being open and honest with something, I think that because even sometimes adults or parents aren't open and honest with their children about how to do things. And so like, I feel like managing your finances is so important and like absolutely crucial to having the life that you want. Not necessarily the life that you want, but there is a lot of things that can be erased from your life, a lot of stress that can be erased from your life by literally just learning how to manage your money. And it's so important. But when I feel like when it comes to teaching people like how to do things and being very open and honest, which is usually how you accomplish instruction and how to teach someone is being open and honest and walking them through step to step, step by step, we end up hiding the most important, one of the most important tools that we can give, younger generations is how do you manage your money? And the only way you teach somebody how to do that is by being open and honest.
yeah,
And a lot of people aren't. So
that's a good point.
yeah. Well, when it comes to then, you kind of mentioned it, when it comes to if one of us has a lot of debt and one of us doesn't have a lot of debt, I would love for you to answer that one.
Why? Because I had debt?
No, just because it's something that I would love to know. And I think other people would like to know as well.
It's a tough one. I think that there are a lot of variables to it. Like, does the person have a plan already on how they're paying off the debt? Let's say it's a student loan. Are they coming into the relationship like, oh yeah, I have a student loan. It's kind of just like there, I'll pay it off eventually. Or, like Biden will pay it off for me. Like I'm just betting on him, the whole forgiving loans thing. Or is the person like coming into it being like, yeah, I'm already on a payment plan with the lowest interest rate I can get. And I'm going to have it paid off by this time. And I work like a side hustle so I can put more money into paying it off. Like, because I think the way someone handles debt says a lot about their financial future. So I think that's the first thing. And I think that if they are handling it and they have a good action plan, then why not just kind of come alongside them and tackle it together? I don't think there's anything wrong with uniting and tackling debt together if the person that the debt belongs to has good intentions on paying it off. Because like whether you're dating, engaged, or married, like once you are married, you do everything together, right? So you do everything in life together, so you're going to pay that debt off together, right? So I guess that's kind of my thought process on it. But listen, if you have like $100K in, let's say, medical school debt, and you were like, oh yeah, I'm not really paying it off yet, and your interest rate was like extremely high and you didn't care, that would be a red flag.
Yeah, just like anything else with relationships, people come into relationships with things that you have to deal with and that you have to be okay with. And that could be a lot of different things. And debt is one of those things that is sometimes really, really, really hard to get out of or impossible to get out of depending on the situation. And if you, like you said, if you do have a high interest rate on stuff, it can be very difficult and very drawn out. So just for our circumstance, I had no debt when we started dating. I didn't have any ever. I never had any.
You had a net worth.
I had a net worth. I guess. I don't know. Yeah. And then when we met, I inherited the debt on the car, which was more money than I had saved. So I think it was like probably 28,000 at the time when we met, like 28,000 on the car.
Yeah, I guess.
And so like, but you know, which isn't like that much money. Like the average American, I'm pretty sure, has like somewhere upwards of like $90,000 in debt.
Yeah.
But so it's not that much money in comparison, but when you're paying an almost 7% interest rate, you know, you're paying an extra amount for that vehicle. And so for me, it was like a little bit of a shock just because I had never owed anybody anything, which is like a great feeling. And if I wanted something, I just bought it. Like I paid for it in full, which it also makes you, if you do it that way, like it makes you a little bit more conscious about what you're paying for. But you do pay less for it in the long run, which is why it's always beneficial. But even today, I think we have like, after 4 years, I think 9,000 left on it. And I'm like looking forward to the day. Like
I feel like it's way more than that.
No, like 9 or 10.
It was like 15.
Looking forward to like in the day, like off in the distance to where we own it.
But yeah, like he knew that I had, what, 28K in debt, but I was on a payment plan, of course. It's a car. And he knew that I had made a poor decision to buy that stupid car.
Which we couldn't go back on.
We couldn't go back on. We had thought about reselling the car. We had tried to refinance multiple times. Like we had tried everything we could. So we just decided, why not just like bring it into our marriage and just tackle it together. And that's what we've been doing. And we're getting there. We're almost done. So yeah, we made that choice to tackle it together since we had a good plan.
But in the midst of all that, we literally got married, and 2 months after we got married, I started school.
Yeah.
So we tackled actually an extra, school was $40,000.
Yeah.
So that was like a total of, you know, in our first year of marriage, $70,000. But that was one of those situations where I didn't have, like I went to a music college, but other than that, I stopped doing that. So I didn't have any sort of education where I felt like I could step into a job that paid me well. So that was one of those decisions where I was like, I don't really like the financial situation that we're in. So I'm going to invest into myself. And, you know, that was even a decision that we both had to make, which I think took you a little bit longer to accept than me. And I had to invest in myself and literally just start working to the point to where I could make more money.
Yeah.
However, we technically did not go into any debt doing it.
Yeah, that's true.
We were paying school off as we went. So if I just said one day, I don't want to do school anymore, we wouldn't have owed anything. We could have just not paid.
Yeah.
So yeah. So how then if one person is bad with their money and the other person is really good with their money, how do you think that can be resolved or handled in a relationship? I think that kind of spans more than dating, but like I guess in the context of dating.
Well, when I think of like you and I was not good with my money, like at all. I wouldn't say I was in tons of debt. Like besides my car, I didn't have debt. I never got credit cards or anything, but I was one of those people that never really thought about like saving for the future. I just used whatever money was in my paycheck and like spent it until I had my next paycheck. That's just how I lived life. And so like when we met, I felt like you came with like a gentle, slow approach of like, oh, like maybe we should start.
I don't know if it was a gentle, slow approach. I probably could have been softer about it.
Like when we were dating though, I feel like when we got married, we were pretty like, all right, like this is the way it needs to be. But like when we were dating and stuff, I don't feel like, I can't think of times, I mean, you can correct me, but I can't think of times when you were like, you shouldn't be buying this and that. Like you need to save your money, Bethany. Like you just came at it with like setting a good example with your own finances. And I feel like it slowly started to rub off on me because I realized, oh, I have like nothing in my savings, but Christopher has this amount in his savings. Like, how do I become like Christopher in a way? And so I just watched and like, you just were very careful with how you spend your money. Like, for example, you literally think about what you're going to buy. Like you sit on it, you sleep on it, you sleep on it, you sleep on it again. Do you love it? And then you buy it. And so I've kind of slowly like started to shift my mindset into that. So I personally think you just set a good example for me. But I think I also set a good example for you in a way
Yeah.
to learn
Yeah.
how to be a little bit more lenient with
Yeah.
your money, because you used to be extremely tight with your money.
And I think back about it and I think like, why didn't I just like, I think about stuff that I wanted really badly like back then and I'm like, why didn't I just buy it? Like I didn't owe anybody anything.
Yeah,
And so like I felt like I withheld too much stuff that could have made my life better because I just like if it was like, $1, I was like, that's like,
yeah.
that's like 50 seconds of work,
And I feel like that's how I became for a while. Even I struggle with it today, like because once we took on that school bill every month, it like really impacted us financially, which was fine because we didn't have to pay interest and like we're not in debt. So I wouldn't have changed it. But I started like triple guessing everything that I was buying, and like $5 stressed me out. And I feel like it still does to a point, but I just try to remind myself like that it's technically the Lord's money and he's giving it to us and he sees that we're stewarding it well. And so he's going to bless us. And we have so many stories of just like checks showing up in our bank account when we needed a little extra cash, and like so many like random things like
And it wasn't like accidental checks like from somebody we didn't know. It was like
but it was money that we weren't expecting to come
Yeah.
into our account that just would like show up, and it was just crazy. So like I guess there's also just remembering like that it's not technically ours, it's the Lord's. And so we can't hold on to it so tightly. There needs to be like a healthy balance of how we use our money, right?
Yeah.
So I don't even remember what question we were talking about, to be honest.
Well, to kind of play on that too, when you were talking about me having money or you not having money, or, vice versa, or maybe neither people have money or both people come together with a lot of money. What do you want? I think the real question is, what do you want to bring to the person that you are going to spend the rest of your life with?
Yeah.
So in the past, and we're saying like way, way, way in the past, women would bring a certain amount of actual money to their husbands, almost like as a gift. And vice versa. You saw husbands bringing what?
In what, Bible times?
Yeah, like the endowments.
Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm sure that happened like, I don't know, 200 years ago, or maybe, I don't know, 50 years ago.
I thought they brought like livestock and stuff.
That too, I'm sure that happened.
It's like, it wasn't just like money, like lots of cash.
Livestock was like expensive back then, so it might as well have been money. I'm not a historian. But I think the main point is, what do you want to bring that person? Like, do you want to show up in a relationship and have nothing?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to show up in a relationship and show that you are a responsible individual, you have something to bring to the table? And I think that says a lot, I think, about someone's character and someone's responsibility. And I think ultimately that's like an attractive quality. I mean, I've never seen someone and they've been like responsible and well off and had a job that they worked really hard for and are really responsible with their money and the stuff that the Lord has given them, and been like, man, that's just not very attractive. Like, I'm not really like into that. So I think that it's really, really cool. And I think that it's a cool thing to challenge yourself with. And I don't think that a lot of people have the self-control to be able to challenge themselves with that.
Yeah.
So I think that everyone nowadays which we've talked about before, there is a certain expectation where, whether it's like school or, anything, school, hygiene, or cars, houses, different amenities, clothes, where everyone feels like they have to match a standard, when in reality, you don't. And I know that's like a very simple concept, but people have to have things. And one of the reasons why everything has become not necessarily why everything has become so expensive, but why people don't have as much as they could have is because they are always paying extra for what they have because they're always going into debt to buy stuff. Yeah. So I think it's important to just to have self-control and to be able to say no to something. I think that like fundamentally is what will help you gain control over like finances, which isn't necessarily what this is about. It's more just talking about finances and dating. But
the financial bunny trail.
Like, information, I think.
Yeah, so I think the summary is it is healthy and attractive to be financially prepared walking into a relationship. And I don't think it's talked about enough. I don't think that I really was very aware of that until I met you and you were so financially prepared. So we just want to like encourage anybody that's single or dating, like finances are a huge thing in relationships and it needs to be talked about more. And we just encourage you to be smart, be responsible, and save up that dinero. So anything else that you got, or you want to wrap it up?
I kind of want to wrap it up, but I also want to mention that the Bible speaks a lot about money.
Yeah.
In the Bible, there's a lot of Bible verses that mentions money and mentions stewarding your money and also mentions having enough to be able to give back to the Lord and give back to the church, or, you know, whether that's your local church or I don't know. So just to be able to be as financially responsible, to be able to give back, I think. And even that's like the next step after you kind of gain control over your own finances is.
And it's funny.
Give back.
Because I actually had a Bible verse, but I didn't share it in the beginning. Proverbs 3:9-10 says, honor the Lord with your possessions and with the first produce of your entire harvest. Then your barns will be completely filled and your vats will overflow with new wine. Obviously, we don't have barns and vats with wine right now or produce from a harvest. But basically, just like honor the Lord with your money and give the first 10% or whatever he calls you to back to him, and he's going to honor that and provide for you like we were talking about beforehand. So but we're so excited to continue this series. The next talk is going to be about early years of marriage and what that looks like with finances. That is going to be
getting real.
That's going to be a good one. Looking forward to that. And then the third one to close the series out is just going to be talking about what the Bible says about finances, doing a deep dive, because there is so many like parables and scriptures and so much gold that we can just learn from in the Bible. So thanks so much for joining us and sticking with us. And we can't wait to see you next week.
Round 2.
See ya.
Cool.